PL-600 Microsoft Certification Power Platform Solution Architect Question and Answer, Set 1. A Microsoft Power Platform solution you are working on for a logistics company is about to go live. A developer releases a new version of the solution that has several updates in the quality assurance (QA) environment. The QA team must verify that prior functionality continues to work and that users can still log into the app successfully. You need to identify the type of testing the QA team needs to perform to meet requirements. Which type of testing should the QA team perform? Option 1, Functional. Option 2, Go-Live. Option 3, Performance. Option 4, Regression. Correct answers, Regression. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of the different testing types and how they are used to identify factors that might affect Go-Live. Regression testing is performed to ensure changes or updates to a solution have not introduced any unintended side effects or caused existing functionality to break. Functional testing verifies the broad functional requirements, but it does not test the unchanged functions when a system update has taken place. Performance tests verify expected peak load and peak transaction volume and are typically automated and run before Go-Live. Go-Live testing is a dry run of the complete solution. The Go-Live process is typically performed just before Go-Live occurs. A company goes live with a Microsoft Power Platform solution. A user identifies issues with the model-driven app and the solution. You review the issues and determine that there is a problem with a client-side script. You need to ensure the issues are triaged for support. To whom should you assign the issues? Option 1, Data Analyst. Option 2, Developer. Option 3, Functional Consultant. Option 4, Project Manager. Correct answers, Developer. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of remediating issues during a Go-Live. The developer is the correct person on the project team to deal with these specific issues arising out of the Go-Live. The developer will have detailed knowledge relating to code and client-side scripting and therefore will be the ideal person to resolve the issues. The project manager will not have detailed technical knowledge regarding the overall solution. The project manager's area of expertise is in managing the project. Although the functional consultant will have detailed knowledge regarding model-driven Microsoft Power Apps, the issues are related to client-side scripting, which has been created by a developer. Therefore, ensuring the issues are triaged to the developer will ensure they are resolved promptly. A data analyst will typically not be able to advise and resolve technical aspects of Power Apps because the analyst specializes in working with tools such as Power BI. A company goes live with a model-driven app. Users report that they have difficulty using the app. The project team determines the problems are due to networking issues and incompatible web browsers. You need to propose a solution to prevent similar Go-Live issues in future projects. What should you propose? Option 1, simplify the Go-Live plans. Option 2, implement a rollback strategy as part of the Go-Live process. Option 3, perform user acceptance testing, UAT, as part of the Go-Live process. Option 4, perform data migration activities earlier in the Go-Live process. Correct answers: perform user acceptance testing, UAT, as part of the Go-Live process. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of identifying and mitigating common Go-Live issues. A UAT phase during a project is designed to gain formal acceptance of a solution by its intended group of users, and it often identifies issues that will be problematic after the Go-Live. By including a UAT phase in this scenario, the project team could have identified the unsupported web browsers and networking issues and mitigated them before going live with the solution. Simplifying a Go-Live plan can be useful in reducing the risk of problems arising and in communicating the broad strategy to non-technical users. However, it would not have identified and mitigated the specific issues mentioned. A rollback strategy can be used when it is necessary to revert to a previous business system or process that the new solution is replacing. However, although useful in ensuring business continuity, this strategy would not have identified and mitigated the specific issues mentioned. Data migration activities should be carried out regularly to help with validation testing and development efforts. However, although useful in these respects, performing these activities would not have identified and mitigated the specific issues mentioned. A company has 4 Microsoft Power Platform environments: development, quality assurance, QA, user acceptance testing, UAT, and production. The company requires a solution to automatically move documents from a network shared folder to SharePoint daily. The same instance of SharePoint is used for the QA and UAT environments. The network shared folders are different. You create a scheduled cloud flow that will run at 6 p.m. daily to move the documents. You deploy the solution from the QA environment to the UAT environment. Users test the flow and discover that some documents they did not generate are now present in the SharePoint location. You need to resolve this automation conflict. What should you do? Option 1. Delete the documents in the SharePoint document library. Option 2. Delete the documents in the UAT network shared folder. Option 3. Turn off the cloud flow in the QA environment. Option 4. Turn off the cloud flow in the UAT environment. Correct answers: turn off the cloud flow in the QA environment. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of resolving automation conflicts. Automation conflicts can arise from having multiple flows with the same trigger event configured. This can lead to unexpected behavior or duplication of actions. In the scenario, the flow was active in both environments and set to run at the same time, thereby causing a conflict when the documents were migrated. It is therefore necessary to turn off the flow in the QA environment because it is not required for the users to carry out the UAT testing. Turning off the flow in the UAT environment will not resolve the problem because the users are testing the automation in the UAT environment. The flow in the UAT environment ensures the documents added by the users into the network shared folder will be migrated to the SharePoint location. Turning this off will make the test unsuccessful and will not resolve the conflict. Deleting the documents in the SharePoint document library will not resolve this conflict because SharePoint is the target environment where the documents are automatically migrated to. If the documents are deleted and there is another run of the flow at 6:00 p.m., the conflict will persist and the documents that the users did not generate will be migrated again. Deleting the documents in the UAT network shared folder will not resolve this conflict because the documents need to be migrated from the UAT network shared folder to the SharePoint site. Deleting these documents will terminate the test process. A company has 3 Microsoft Power Platform environments: development, user acceptance testing, UAT, and production. The company creates an application. Data needs to be migrated into the new application from another system. You are creating the data migration strategy. A specified group of users in the company must be able to test the quality and quantity of the data after the data is migrated. You need to verify that the data can be tested. How should you test the quality and quantity of the data? Option 1. Import the data into the UAT environment and test it. Option 2. Import the data into a newly created environment and test it. Option 3. Import the data into the production environment and test it. Option 4. Import the data into the development environment and test it. Correct answers: import the data into a newly created environment and test it. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of data migration strategy. Migrated data needs to be imported into a separate environment for testing to ensure accurate testing of the data's quality and quantity. Migrated data should not be imported into the development environment because this environment is for the development of applications. The UAT environment is also inappropriate for migrated data because this will enable user acceptance testing users to modify the migrated data, which will alter the test of the data's quality and quantity. Migrated data should also not be imported into the production environment because this environment is for live applications, not testing. A company implements Dynamics 365 Sales. The company also has an on-premises ERP system. There is no API for the ERP system. You need to design an integration between the ERP system and sales. Which capability should you recommend? Option 1. Azure Functions. Option 2. Azure Logic Apps. Option 3. Cloud Flow. Option 4. Desktop Flow. Correct answers: Desktop Flow. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of Microsoft Power Platform components and Dynamics 365 apps. There is no API for the ERP system in the scenario. Therefore, the solution must log into the system on a machine and use the UI to extract the needed data. This can be done by using a desktop flow. Cloud flows work only when there is a RESTful API for a system. The system also must be accessible from the cloud. Because there is no API for the ERP system, cloud flows cannot be used for the integration. Logic Apps has many of the same restrictions and limitations that cloud flows have. Logic Apps requires an API. Azure Functions also requires an API. A company implements a model-driven app to support its sales team. The app does not meet all the user's requirements. You plan to extend the app by using a custom Microsoft Power Apps component to resolve the issue. You need to evaluate whether the component will work as intended. Which approach should you use? Option 1, an out-of-the-box demo. Option 2, a pre-built demo. Option 3, a proof of concept. Option 4, a prototype. Correct answers: a proof of concept. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of the different approaches to test and evaluate solutions. For the evaluation required in the scenario, a proof of concept is the appropriate approach to use. A proof of concept will show not only the standard functionality, but it also will take the specific requirements into consideration for the scope and context of the existing solution. An out-of-the-box demo includes standard functionality without any customization. Because you need to evaluate whether the approach of creating a custom component meets the requirements, an out-of-the-box demo is not sufficient. Pre-sales teams usually use pre-built demos. These demos do have a few customizations, but they are still generic and not altered to a customer's specific requirements. A prototype is in between a proof of concept and an out-of-the-box demo, meaning it has some customization and considers the customer's requirements. But it does not fully implement the requirements, rather, it tries to show what might be possible to do when the requirements are implemented. A company plans to implement a new ticket management system. Customers will be able to create tickets to report issues with the company's services. You are in the solution planning phase. You need to recommend the appropriate Dynamics 365 product for the implementation. Which product should you recommend? Option 1, Dynamics 365 Customer Service. Option 2, Dynamics 365 Field Service. Option 3, Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, Journeys. Option 4, Dynamics 365 Sales. Correct answers: Dynamics 365 Customer Service. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of the differences among the customer engagement apps for Dynamics 365. Dynamics 365 Customer Service is the app where tickets and cases are handled. Customers can create new tickets through the mail or a website, for example, if they have an issue with a product or service the company sells. Dynamics 365 Field Service is for handling field workers. These are the people who drive to customer locations to fix issues on site. Field Service also lets you manage the hardware and inventory you and your customers have. Dynamics 365 Sales is a classic customer relationship management (CRM) system. It is mainly used to handle sales within an organization. Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Journeys is the marketing solution of Dynamics 365. You can send different marketing campaigns, such as by mail, to different segments to optimize your marketing output. A company plans to use Microsoft Power Platform. External users submit complaints to the company by email. The company needs to build a solution to manage the complaints. The solution must meet the following requirements. Enable the self-creation of a user profile. Include multi-factor authentication to confirm the user's identity. Enable users to submit complaints and access real-time support. You need to recommend the components to meet the requirements. Which two components should you recommend? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Option 1, Microsoft Power Apps. Option 2, Microsoft Power Automate. Option 3, Microsoft Power Pages. Option 4, Custom Agent. Correct answers: Microsoft Power Pages, Custom Agent. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of Microsoft Power Platform solution components. Power Pages can create a website that the public can access and where user profiles can be created, multi-factor authentication can be implemented, and complaints can be submitted. Power Virtual Agents can be integrated into Power Pages to ensure real-time access to support from the website when required. Power Apps provides an environment for rapid creation of applications. It does not have the ability to create a website that the public can access and where user profiles can be created, multi-factor authentication can be implemented, and complaints can be submitted. It also does not allow the self-creation of a profile by anyone in the public. Although a Canvas application can be shared with guest users, the users would need to be created in Microsoft Entra ID first. Power Automate is used to automate tasks in business processes. It does not give the ability to create a website that is accessible to the public. A company requires a Dynamics 365 app that can use the data model within the company's Microsoft Dataverse environment. You need to identify which Dynamics 365 app can be installed in Dataverse. Which 3 Dynamics 365 apps should you select? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Option 1, Sales. Option 2, Finance. Option 3, Field Service. Option 4, Business Central. Option 5, Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, Data. Correct answers: Sales, Field Service, Customer Service. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of Dynamics 365 apps and how these can be used to solve business requirements for organizations using Microsoft Power Platform. Each of the Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps use key functionality within Microsoft Power Platform, such as Dataverse, Power Apps, and Power Automate. Integrating Dynamics 365 apps in Microsoft Power Platform will lead to a more streamlined experience and can more quickly address requirements that Microsoft Power Platform alone cannot. Sales, Field Service, and Customer Service can all be installed directly on top of Dataverse and use existing data models built within it. Business Central is a business management solution for small to medium-sized organizations and is designed to provide accounting and business management functionality. Finance is an ERP tool designed for large organizations with complex accounting processes. Both Business Central and Finance do not use Dataverse as their underlying data source. Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Data is a customer data platform tool that allows organizations to understand customer behaviors and trends. Although it can consume data from Dataverse, the app is not reliant on Dataverse and does not use Dataverse as its underlying data source. A company requires an integration of its Microsoft Power Platform implementation with another system. During the planning phase, you discover the other system has an open RESTful API. You also discover there is data from the other system in both Canvas apps and Microsoft Power Automate. The integration must be extendable by citizen developers without help from developers. You need to recommend the appropriate capability to create the base for the integration. Which capability should you recommend? Option 1, Plugin. Option 2, Cloudflow. Option 3, Azure Functions. Option 4, Custom Connector. Correct answers: Custom Connector. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of different components of Microsoft Power Platform as well as when to use which component. Custom connectors can be reused in Canvas apps and Cloudflows as well as Azure Logic apps. To be able to create a custom connector, the system that you integrate with needs a RESTful API. Azure Functions can integrate with the other system, but Azure Functions cannot be reused, and a developer is needed whenever a change is required. Plugins only run in Dataverse and cannot be reused by Power Automate or Canvas apps on their own. They also require a developer whenever a change is needed. Cloudflows can be used, but there would not be any reuse effect because every request would have to be done manually with HTTP requests. A company that uses Microsoft Power Platform needs to develop a solution for managing meeting rooms. You are leading the requirement gathering session for the meeting room request application. You need to propose a functional requirement for this solution. What should you recommend? Option 1, the application should include the ability to receive approval requests by emails. Option 2, the application should enable 100,000 concurrent users. Option 3, the application must give users the ability to request a meeting room after work hours. Option 4, access to update data in the application should be granted only to the facilities department. Correct answers: the application should include the ability to receive approval requests by emails. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of functional requirements. Functional requirements are features of the solution that are implemented so business users can achieve their tasks. These types of requirements describe what the solution needs to do. The ability to receive approval requests by email is a functional requirement. Non-functional requirements are non-behavior requirements. They are the requirements required to support and maintain the solution and describe how the solution needs to perform in terms of scalability, availability, and security. Scaling the solution, granting access to data, and providing availability of the solution are non-functional requirements. A company uses Microsoft Power Automate. Data is stored in Microsoft Dataverse. You are designing the automation strategy. Cloud flows must be created to perform a series of actions on the data in Dataverse. You need to ensure all the steps work or none of them work. What should you do? Option 1, create a child flow. Option 2, create a change set. Option 3, add a parallel branch. Option 4, add the configure run after setting. Correct answers: create a change set. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of an automation strategy that uses Power Automate. Change set is an action that allows a series of actions to be performed on the data in Dataverse where all the steps work or none of them work. Parallel branches enable multiple actions or tasks to be executed concurrently. Configure run after is a setting in a flow step that can be modified to manage errors. Child flows can be created as independent units of logic and can be reused in multiple parent flows or in the same flow. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform and the Dynamics 365 Sales mobile app. Some users report that the Sales app is difficult to use on their mobile device. You need to identify the Microsoft Power Platform component that can resolve the user's issue. Which component should you select? Option 1, Custom Connector. Option 2, Microsoft Power Apps Canvas app. Option 3, Microsoft Power Automate Cloud Flow. Option 4, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Field Service mobile app. Correct answers: Microsoft Power Apps Canvas app. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of when to use which Microsoft Power Platform component for mobile devices as well as when an optimization is appropriate. A Power Apps Canvas app can be created to be optimized for mobile devices, including a mobile-friendly UI/UX that makes it easier for users to use the Sales app. The Canvas app can also contain just a part of the whole solution. Custom connectors are used to connect Power Automate and other parts of Microsoft Power Platform to custom APIs. A custom connector will not improve the user's experience with the Sales app. Power Automate cloud flows are used to automate processes. They can replace some user interaction with data. By using a cloud flow, the solution would not include the Sales app and therefore users would not be able to access the data. The Field Service mobile app can be used only when the Field Service first-party app is also used. The scenario does not specify that Field Service is used. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform. A citizen developer at the company creates a Microsoft Power Apps Canvas app for personal productivity in the default environment. The app is going to be made available to everyone in the company. You need to decide which environment type you should use to run the app. Which environment type should you use? Option 1, Development. Option 2, Production. Option 3, Sandbox. Option 4, Trial. Correct answers: Production. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of the different environment types. Production is the appropriate environment for this scenario because its purpose is to run apps in production mode. This type of environment gets more resources, which makes it more performant. In addition, production environments have a longer backup retention period. Development environments are intended for personal development and learning. They are not intended for production use. Sandbox environments are intended for all environments in a pipeline that are not production, such as test or development environments. This type of environment has fewer resources than a production environment. Trial environments are intended to test new functionality and create quick proof of concepts. They are not intended to be used in a production environment pipeline. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform. The Human Resources Supervisor requires a solution to manage the monthly performance of employees. Developers create a Canvas app to meet this requirement. The app contains several components across many screens. Employees provide feedback that the app takes more than 20 seconds to load. The app has a low adoption rate. You need to recommend solutions to improve the app's performance. Which two solutions should you recommend? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Option 1, add non-delegable functions. Option 2, apply a control dependency. Option 3, reduce the number of controls that are used. Option 4, use the concurrent function. Correct answers, reduce the number of controls that are used. Use the concurrent function. Explanation, this item tests the candidate's knowledge of assessing the solution performance. To improve the performance of a Canvas app, the concurrent function should be used because it increases the performance of the app by enabling multiple formulas specified within the same property to be evaluated at the same time. Another way to improve the performance of a Canvas app is to reduce the number of controls that are used. The more controls used, the less responsive the Canvas app can become. Using non-delegable functions will process the data locally on the app, which reduces the performance of the app. The use of delegable functions is recommended to improve the performance of a Canvas app because they ensure the data processing is handled by the data source rather than locally on the app. Control dependencies in Canvas apps should be avoided because they can cause performance issues. For example, using a control on screen 2 of your app in screen 1 means that when you load screen 1, the app must also load screen 2. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform. You are designing an integration with another cloud-based system. You are using an Azure service for the integration. You need to ensure users get an immediate response from the system after a request is processed. Which Azure service should you use? Option 1, Event Hubs. Option 2, Relay. Option 3, Service Bus Queue. Option 4, Service Bus Topic. Correct answers, Relay. Explanation, this item tests the candidate's knowledge of Azure services and how to use them to extend Microsoft Power Platform with Azure. Relay was previously part of Service Bus but is now its own service. It is the only option that can provide an immediate response after a request is processed. Service Bus and Service Bus Topic cannot respond to a request immediately because their process is asynchronous. Event Hubs is a data streaming platform and ingestion service. It cannot provide an immediate response and therefore does not meet the requirement. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform. You design a data model strategy for the company. You include the following Microsoft Dataverse tables with the specified columns. Order table, reference number field, which locks when it contains data, product name field, which looks up to the products table. Product table, product name, product ID, supplier name fields. You create a custom relationship to ensure that when a row is reassigned to another user, the assignment cascades to all related table rows. You are assigned as the owner of several records in the order table. You discover that the reference number field that contains data is no longer locked. You need to ensure the reference number field is locked if contains data. What should you do? Option 1, deactivate the records in the order table and reactivate them. Option 2, reactivate the business rule in the order table. Option 3, delete the business rule in the order table and create a new one. Option 4, reassign the records assigned to you to the previous owner. Correct answers, reactivate the business rule in the order table. Explanation, this item tests the candidate's knowledge of designing table relationship behaviors. To ensure the reference number field remains locked after the reassignment, the business rule needs to be reactivated. The new owner of the records needs to reactivate the business rules. This also applies to workflows. Deactivation and reactivation of the records in the order table will not enable the business rule that locks the reference number field when it contains data. This only reactivates the records. Deleting the business rule and creating a new one will not work because a new business rule will only affect the new data input. It will not affect the existing data. Reassigning your assigned records to the previous owner will not enable the business rule because whenever a company uses Microsoft Power Platform. Another system in the company needs to integrate with the Microsoft Power Platform environment to update data in the environment. The system is not aware of the GUIDs of the rows in Microsoft Dataverse that must be updated. You are designing the integration. The integration must minimize the number of requests. You need to select a capability to meet the requirements. Which capability should you select? Option 1, Alternative Keys. Option 2, Azure Service Bus. Option 3, Change Tracking. Option 4, Cloud Flow. Correct answers, Alternative Keys. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of integration optimization. Alternative keys can be configured as another unique identifier in the Dataverse table, which enables the system to easily identify the row that needs to be updated. This eliminates the need to first query the entire Dataverse table to confirm the GUID of the row that needs to be updated before performing the update. As a result, it minimizes the number of requests sent by the system and optimizes efficiency. Change tracking can show delta changes in Dataverse data, but it cannot be used to push changes. Azure Service Bus is used to receive events from Dataverse, but it cannot be used to push data to Dataverse. Cloud Flows can write to Dataverse, but they would need the row ID to be able to update data. This would result in additional requests to get the ID. A company uses Microsoft Power Platform. The company creates a loan application in Microsoft Dataverse. The company will send the Dataverse records that are posted in the loan application to a third-party service. The Dataverse records will be sent as messages. The third-party service has limited ability to process a high volume of messages at once. You need to ensure that the messages sent from Dataverse are queued so the third-party service can process them faster. What should you use? Option 1, Azure Event Hubs. Option 2, Azure Functions. Option 3, Azure Logic Apps. Option 4, Azure Service Bus. Correct answers, Azure Service Bus. Explanation: this item tests the candidate's knowledge of designing third-party integrations. Service Bus provides a message queuing service that is triggered by an event. When data is stored in Dataverse, Service Bus receives this message and adds it to a queue. This is required in this scenario because the third-party service is unable to process a high volume of messages at once. Service Bus sends these messages to the third-party service using the first-in, first-out (FIFO) approach and sends the next message only when it has received a confirmation that the third-party application has successfully processed the last message, which makes the process faster. Logic Apps allows you to design, build, and automate workflows and business processes. Azure Functions is an event-driven serverless compute service used to handle a specific task or business logic. Event Hubs is a scalable event streaming platform that can handle high volumes of streaming data. These Azure services do not provide a message queuing feature.